Hello, and welcome to Story Behind the Story, where romance readers connect. I'm author Reese Ryan, author of sexy, emotional romantic fiction featuring lots of family drama, surprising secrets, and a cast of characters. If you are here for the first time, thank you so much for joining me. And if you enjoy reader centered author discussions, consider hitting the subscribe button below and the notification bell so that you'll be notified of discussions just like this one that I'm going to have today with Angelina M. Lopez, as well as the discussion I'm going to have next week with Kathy Douglas. So I am super excited to have this discussion, first of all, because I love this book. Yeah, I have it on my Kindle, and I cannot wait until I get a couple more books done so I can get some more reading in. But original book by Angelina M. Lopez in her Filthy Rich series is one of my favorite reads this year. So I am excited to bring her on to talk about in her new release, but also to talk about strong heroines in romance. Because let me tell you, I've not read her first book, Lush Money. Her heroine, Roxanne Medina, definitely nails the strong heroine. So by all means, you want to check that out. And if you haven't read it, you are going to absolutely want to read it, at least by the time we finish talking about it, for sure. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the fabulous. Hey.
Hi, Reese. Thank you so much for having me. This is super
Thank you.
exciting, and I couldn't have been more thrilled when you told me on Twitter that you liked the book. That was just such an enormous, enormous compliment coming from a caliber of your writer, your experience, and publishing. We were just talking about your prolific publishing schedule, and I was just truly, truly honored. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. So to start off, for anybody who does not know you, please tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you write.
Sure. I am Angelina M. Lopez. I've been writing for 20 years. I just debuted my book last October, which was Lush Money. And I write sexy contemporary stories about strong women and the confident men lucky to love them. I always like to add that confident men in there because I think sometimes people think, if you're writing a strong man, then you always must be writing some kind of weak guy. And that is not the case. I think in really great, strong hero and stories, it's you have a strong hero, that you have strength being strength. And that's what makes them really fun and sexy and just having two powerful people who love and respect and admire each other is really, really fun to talk about. So yeah, that's what I write.
And I love that you mentioned that about them being, that they're confident enough, because that is an issue, in real life for many strong women, is that they have men who are intimidated by them because they're not confident enough to deal with all of that. So so that's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. So you already know how much I loved your debut title, Lush Money. So for people who are not familiar with that book, give us an overview of it and of your Filthy Rich series.
Sure. Okay. I think I've got it. Lush Money is about let me see. There it goes. It's about a billionaire businesswoman. Her name is Roxanne Medina. She is a self-made Mexican-American billionaire businesswoman who makes a baby contract with a modern-day prince. He has a struggling kingdom, and essentially she wants sex with him 3 days a month, 3 nights a month for a year. And in return, at the end of the year, she'll give him enough money to save his struggling kingdom. She essentially wants a perfect royal baby to put the cherry on top of her perfect life pie, and obviously it doesn't stay as she finds this arrangement very neat and very, neat. He has something she needs. She has something he needs, and it's a fair trade. In his mind, he's like, what most of us would think is, this is crazy. But, and obviously the relationship evolves over time. But that's the starting little blurb about that book.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And news flash, or something I don't talk about much. Probably one of the reasons I probably connected to your heroine so much and loved her so much is because my legal name is Roxanne.
I love that name so much. If I ever had a girl, we were going to name her Roxanne. And unfortunately, the first cat we owned was named Roxanne. And I was like, crap, I wasted the name on the cat. Well, if we have a daughter, I'm going to name her Roxanne, and I'll just tell her I named her after the cat. But I love that name so much. Hilarious. I love it. That's again, I'm not going to have a daughter, so instead I have a Roxanne.
And that's funny because most of my life growing up, I did not like the name, and more so I didn't like the nickname Roxy.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I'm 18, I'm going to change my name. But by the time I got 18, I realized that nobody who knew me was going to call me anything different.
Yeah.
And they were just going to call me the same thing. So I'm like, whatever. So like, it's fine.
Having my name, people always wanted to call me Angie. And I was a very militant little 5-year-old no, it's Angelina. And so I had to but for whatever reason, at 5, even though I was pretty accommodating, that was really important to me. So it's so funny because I never thought about anyone shortening her name. I think it's because I'm so militant about my own, but no.
Yeah.
I love it.
Knowing your character, I couldn't calling her anything short either. So
no.
I definitely couldn't imagine that. No way, no how. Hello, Mama Tony. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hi, Tony.
So yeah, I can't, knowing that character, there's no way I can see anybody calling her anything else. So so in Money, we met Princess Sofia, and this book, Hate Crush, she's the heroine, and she was the hero in book 1's younger sister, Princess Mateo. And so in this book, we meet her, and she definitely was not a fan of the heroine from book 1, Roxanne Medina, when she first met her, for sure. So anyway, in this book, we get to know her and to see her story. So tell readers a little bit about who Princess Sofia is.
So the kingdom in the first book that I established, our Prince with this kingdom, that it's this wine growing kingdom in northern Spain, and that it's a small principality, but they were based on growing these fabulous wine grapes that they would send to the royal family, and that's what they earned their principality from. She gave them a charter and called them a kingdom. So that's kind of the lore around this. So they have historically, year after year, grown these amazing wine grapes. And that's what their kingdom's fortunes are based on. Well, the brother in the first book was a wine grower, so he really got into the science of wine grapes and how do you make them great. The Princess Sofia in Hate Crush, the second book, the follow-up that came out in June, she is a winemaker. So essentially, at the end of the day, she's a chemist. She's also an inventor. She creates this chemical that kind of reinvents or revolutionizes the wine industry. So it's interesting. She's really interesting because when you meet her in book 2, the whole point of the book is it's a second chance romance. So Sophia is, because I like to really push the envelopes of tropes. And so if I'm going to have a woman in a second chance romance, I'm going to make that matter because I want women to be heard. And if a woman says there's a reason I broke up with you, I want it to make sense. I want it to be that, or there's a reason I'm heartbroken. Not that I broke up with you. There's a reason I'm heartbroken. I want it to matter, and I wanted it to make sense. So Sophia, it's a second chance romance with a boy. They fell in love when she was 19, 21. He breaks her heart, just devastates her. 10 years later, he is now this down on his luck rock star. She's trying to establish a winery to help her kingdom. He's a down on his luck rock star, and if they have a fake relationship, it can bring publicity to her kingdom's winery. It can save his relationship. The problem is, save his rock star career. The problem is she hates him, and so the idea of engaging in a fake relationship with this guy is the worst thing in the world. that was a long intro to say Princess Sofia is pretty angry in this book. And I don't think she's inherently an angry person, but because it's a second chance romance and I want it to matter and I want it to be real, she's very angry and resistant throughout this book. And it really brings to the fore the reason she is because she's incredibly loyal. And for her, this community and this kingdom, these people are so important. But the worst thing she could ever have to do is engage in a fake relationship with this man who broke her heart, and the only reason she would do it is because it's going to help her people and it's going to help her kingdom. So she's really, really loyal. But there was an interesting, the book takes place in a month, and I didn't get to show that that she is full of joy and she's this winemaker, she's a princess. I didn't get to show that until later on in the story because she needed to be really angry and resistant in the beginning of the story. So, but again, it's important for me to show women like this matters and I want to be paid attention to. I didn't want it to be a reason that could just be brushed off.
Mm-hmm. And that whole loyalty you just described that she has to her kingdom, and definitely not the kind of princess people think of who's just like not just laying around, not doing anything or whatever. Same thing in Lush Money with Principe Mateo. He was really involved in the process and the growing, and he's getting dirty. And I love that. That was so endearing for me. So I love that.
Thank you, Reese. And it's been really interesting to me because I have billionaires, I have millionaires, I have royalty, and people have talked about these being high glamour, realistic books, but all of them, the prince is in the vineyard. The princess is in the winery making the wine. The billionaire, she talks about what's at stake. That all of these people, the way I've tried to portray them is not that they've just got these money and these riches and this wealth, but it's that they've got tremendous responsibility, whether it's tens of thousands of employees or whether it's a kingdom. But I've really wanted to show not just the high life, but what it means when you've got all of this at stake and all of these people depending on you, that it's a weight, not just a privilege, So I'm glad you like that. Yeah, the wine stuff, because it's a lot of responsibility.
Oh, I found the one. I found all the information about the grapes and the whole growing process. All that was just fascinating to me, and how involved and committed they were as well. And just wanted to say hello to Lisa and Tam, who both said hello.
Hi guys, thank you for coming.
Thank you for joining us. We really, really, really appreciate it. So I loved all of that. And one of the things that I love in writing, especially, is mashups of tropes. And you have that in spades here. It's a second chance romance. It's a enemies to lovers romance, and just all this in a fake relationship. And those are all my personal catnip anyway. Just mash them all up, and that's just fun time. So when you were developing, what led to you developing the idea for this story?
I needed to the premise for it. For Hate Crush? Yeah, yes, how did you? It was kind of figuring out what would be her passion at the end of the day, or what would she be passionate about it, and then what would get in the way of that. And it really kind of, I went backwards from that. Like, well, if she's a winemaker, she's going to be passionate about a winery, and what would be the conflict in terms of her launching this winery. And it became, the second chance romance kind of grew from that. Also, in the first book, she comes across as very hostile towards her brother's relationship at first, or the way that it was built up, that it was this fake relationship. And then later, she really wants her brother to have a real marriage. She wants him to engage. She even tells Roxanne, like, I want that for him. And we kind of understand that she doesn't think she's ever going to have that for herself. So in the first book, we as writers, our characters say things to us, and we don't even know that's in there. They talk to us. Yeah. And so I knew that Sophia, never thought she would have the same love for herself. And I just thought, why? Why doesn't she? And it's because she had her heart broken so intensely when she was younger that she has decided she will never fall in love again. She'll never be in love. So it all kind of stemmed from there. But I love layering tropes, and it's so funny, Reese. And you're a longtime romance reader. I don't even know like when I started reading romance, trope wasn't a word. It was just like what all these writers were doing in romance books. And so it's like when tropes become these hangers, just little hangers, but then it's how we dress them up. It's all the clothes we put on them.
I know.
And so I love the using tropes. I love the genre of romance. I love the structure of it. And it's up to us to make it fascinating. I love the puzzle of turning a trope into something that you've not never seen before, but just making it really interesting, making it stand out. So I just put as like 20 million in there if I can.
It's just always so much fun. It turns up the conflict a little bit and it gives it a different flavor. And tropes are the basis of most romances or whatever, but like you said, when you change it up like that, it just gives you something new and exciting and different to do with it, and it's just so much fun to me. So I'm writing one now that I'm like, the tropes that I've combined, I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. I just wish it could be finished.
Yeah, no doubt. I wish someone else could write it and then just put my name on it.
I just wish I could just like snap my fingers and it'd be done. Especially since I don't write anymore strictly in a linear fashion, and so like a lot of later scenes are already written, and I'm like, okay, I'm writing like early scenes, and I'm like, I need to get to this.
That would be really. Part. I can imagine, because you're like, you already know all the good stuff. Now you're writing, I imagine you're writing all the stuff that fills in between. It's so funny though, but as a writer, kind of that's where sometimes that's the magic happens. And that's where also like you'll have fans call out those things that you just did as an aside. It took you 1 minute to just get in there. And that's just the things that they, that's the stuff that makes them come alive, is like the everyday, just getting from one scene to another,
Yeah. It's something, let me tell you that. so we talked about Princess Sofia. So tell us a little bit then about the hero of Hate Crush. And is it Ash? Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Ash sound, or how do you?
It's Ash.
It's Ash.
Ash.
Okay, that was my first guess. And then the reason why I changed it is because, I know, I often use on my computer, I have it read stuff to me. And so I had written the questions I was going to ask you. And so I had the computer reading it, and the computer pronounced it as Ash. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. So
and it's fine. The narrator emailed me, the first podcast person, like no one knows how to say it. And then I got in my head about how to say it. And so it's a Hebrew word. And so actually my agent is Sarah Megabo, and she has a Jewish background. So I wrote her, and I was like, have I been saying it right? And she said, yes, it's Aish. So yeah, it's a Hebrew word, and a lot of people don't. And in fact, the first review that came up in this book was a 1-star, and this lady put it everywhere, like everywhere she could put it. And it's my sophomore book.
For Hate Crush?
Yes, 1-star. She put it everywhere, and her biggest complaint was she didn't know how to pronounce his name. And I was like, okay, well, that's worth like devastating me over. But yes,
my God. Don't you hate it when like the first reviews come out, like the early ones, and then those are the ones like the first, like that's the thing that always makes you nervous. It's like when the early reviews come out, and it's like those 3 people who hate everything.
She did it really fast. She put it everywhere, and then there wasn't another review for like 2 or 3 days. And I just thought, okay, well, that's the end of my career. And sophomore books are hard anyway. Like you're already like, okay, I'm pretty much sure I'm a fluke. It was and it was like right in the beginning of the pandemic, and it was the worst. And then like everybody loved it, and Entertainment Weekly reviewed it. I'm like, okay,
that's always a sense of relief. I kind of had that with this latest book of mine, A Reunion of Rivals. Like I remember the first handful of reviews like were like really in the middle of the road, and I was already kind of stressed about it anyway when it came out. So like I was freaking out, and then so once I started to get feedback, I'm like, oh, okay, people really like it. Okay.
My career is not over.
Thank God, yes. I live to write another day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So tell us more about him.
Okay, yes. I love this. So Ace Challenger is it's really funny because his background is he's American, he's multi-generational American, but he is ethnically he is half Jewish and half Japanese. Again, his parents, were multi-generational Americans, but his background, he's half Jewish and half Japanese, but raised in Southern California, the only child of these parents who have adored him. Like, he is pretty much certain that his life and he is pretty perfect. And so, he falls deeply in love with Sophia when they're kids and breaks her heart, and then goes on to become this really well-known rock star. And he's kind of like, yeah, of course I'm going to be a great rock star. Like, everything's gone so well. And his journey was really understanding, like, that he isn't as perfect as he thinks, and that he does have a journey, and that, he comes to Spain to help her with a winery, assuming that he's going to be able to like fix everything for her and get her back. And his journey is understanding that he can't, that he's got his own changing to do. It's essentially like my big like thesis paper on mansplaining, like, and he doesn't ever mansplain, but he's pretty sure that he can fix everything, and he has to completely like reassess who he is and what his life has been, and he does. I put him through the ringer, and has to understand she actually knows her own mind. She knows what she wants, and he needs to listen to her. And when we get to that point where he listens to her, and that's the first time that she responds to him in a truly positive way. So he is also he was inspired by Keanu Reeves, and so like he was delicious. I love writing rock stars. Like,
nice.
I don't really write. I write kind of angsty books, and so a lot of times I don't get to write like kind of these sensual, like, a sensualist, just somebody who's kind of a hedonist, and I love writing rock stars because I get just to be like, I don't know, creative and in their own heads. And I love wriing him so much.
That's okay. So look at the comment from Mama Tony. And she said, as a reader, I say the name the way I think it is to be said. I read for the enjoyment and for the book, not for the name of the character. Yeah, that is always, and that name thing is an issue. Like I did change a name of a character. I think in Playing with Desire, I changed the character's last name. And the reason I changed the character's last name is because I often, at the time, I often would let Kendall read stories to me. So even though it wasn't narrated by the narrator, but Kendall was just reading it. And so in the editing process of the book, she kept reading this name that I had as the last name wrong. And so, but it was like a really bad version, I don't mind I don't mind if it mispronounces it a little bit, but it was like terrible. And so I actually changed the last name because of that. But other than that, well, I'm like Mama Tony, it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about it. And we were talking about the reviews. So we have a comment from author D.L. White. I got a low rating on the book because the reader didn't know how to pronounce the character's name. So yeah, apparently that happens quite a bit.
That's good to know, actually. Thank you, because I needed to know that.
So you're not alone in that. So don't feel bad. You're okay. All right. So now, you've definitely, like I said, you've nailed this writing of an alpha heroine, definitely with Roxanne and Medina. Like I said, that I think probably, I don't know if I want to say that's the most, she might have been the most alpha character I've ever read because I think she was definitely the first billionaire heroine I ever read. Yeah. So for anybody who has not read Lush Money yet, that's another thing, all these billionaire romances. In that book, the heroine is the billionaire. So even though he is the hero is a prince, she is a billionaire. She's the one with the money and calling the shots. So
very much so.
You definitely nailed it with her, but you initially found it difficult to write her as an alpha character. So why did you find her to be such a challenge to write?
It was really interesting. I had been looking through books. I had been looking through books on, Kindle, whatever, just flipping through. And I'd seen a book called The Billionaires Prince. And I stopped for a second. I was like, well, what would that be? That must be a male book, you know, 2 male heroes. And instantly I realized that I assumed that the billionaire had to be a man. And I've told the story a billion times, but I'm a, you know, pretty much self-professed lifelong feminist. I was horrified that I assumed the billionaire had to be a man. It turned out it wasn't called this. It was called The Billionaires Price. And it was just weird font. So anyway, but instantly I knew I had to write a female billionaire book because I shamed myself. And that it's gotta be this, The Billionaires Prince. It's a great title for a book. So I started writing it right away. But as I started writing her perspective and her dialogue, I had to stop what I would have not, and I'm not a fast writer, but in terms of my dialogue, it flows pretty easily. I don't spend a lot of time agonizing over it. I had to keep stopping. Because what I realized is I was having her respond as I was accustomed to my heroines responding to things. This is a billionaire who has, you know, tremendous resources and tremendous responsibilities and a tremendous sense of self. That a billionaire would center herself as important in no matter what she's doing, because the only way she can take care of all this money and all of these people is if she centers herself. We're very accustomed to women being accommodating, and in romance, we want our readers to root for our heroines, so we make them. Women we're genetically predisposed to be accommodating because that's how we evolved. You know, the women took care of us, and therefore we got to live. So but now, you know, we're in modern times, and so I realized her kind of in the accommodation wasn't as necessary. And she had to center herself because she'd earned it. You know, she had earned it in terms of her business. She'd earned it morally. Her whole business was based on, you know, investing in women-owned businesses. She had, you know, in every way she had earned the right to center herself and say, okay, what's needed here, but also what do I need in this situation? And so in the beginning of the book, it was really me stopping a lot to think about how she would respond to something. And it was very different than how I had written heroines. Even though I always felt like I wrote strong heroines, this was an entirely different. How does a woman with this level of resources, how does she respond to things? And it was very different than how the other heroines I had been writing responded to them.
That makes a lot of sense because, like I said, because of how everything that she has under her, all the responsibilities she has, like you said, really, it makes sense that she is the way she is. But I also I don't want to give too much away, so I'm gonna wait. I'm wait till my comment for our later part of our discussion. But that makes a lot of sense that, you know, the way she responds to things and handles things is going to be a little different than, and that's just basically that's part of any character. You know, their background informs how they respond.
Exactly. If he's a male billionaire, he's going to act differently than a postman. You know, they're just going to respond to things differently.
Yep, that absolutely makes a lot of sense. So, in reading, like I said, you totally have nailed this. So, what do you think some of the biggest mistakes that authors make sometimes when they're trying to portray an alpha heroine?
I actually wrote with
listeners too. If you're, you know, watching us or whatever, what do you think some of the mistakes are that authors sometimes make when they're trying to portray a strong heroine? Okay, go ahead, Angelina.
I would love to hear what the listeners say too, because yeah, I'd be fascinated by what they say. And I wrote stuff down because I didn't want to blank, because this is, you know, I really wanted to think about that. I think the main issue that that writers will do when they're writing strong or alpha heroines is making them too much like men. That it's really saying that and kind of placing it that prototypically male characteristics are strengths, and that prototypical female characteristics are weakening. And it, you know, preferences and cultures and upbringings, there's no like, you know, this is male characteristics and there is no female characteristics. They're all over the place. But what we've seen in an entertainment industry and in pop culture is that prototypical male characteristics, when they're talking about a strong female, a lot of times she's kind of a man with, the fun lady parts. And,
Right.
that they're intense physical prowess, they're incredibly logical, they, super into technology, they are really, really analytical, and they're really emotionless. A lot of times, again, in like kind of our movies and things like that, you're seeing that kind of thing. And the problem with that is that and I'm stealing this quote from an article I read. The problem with that is it attaches nobility to male characteristics and not to female. You're saying this is what makes strength, and their male characteristics, not this. And I firmly, firmly don't believe that. And so with Roxanne, it was really important that she definitely comes across in the beginning of the book as kind of cold and ramming her agenda down his throat. But it was really important to show she was a nurturer. She wanted to take care of these people. She wanted to take care of of a baby. She wanted to take care of her employees. And eventually she wants to take care of this prince and help him. So it was important for me to show typically female characteristics as strength. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that pop culture and entertainment has done, and one of the disservices to women is to try to show, crying or empathy or that kind of thing, trying to show that as something that makes you weak, which is BS, in my opinion. Another thing I think people get wrong a lot when writing alpha heroines is assuming that an alpha heroine has to be this badass. So she has to be a G.I. Jane, or she has to be a billionaire, or she has to be, she's a G.I. Jane, a billionaire, a spy. I think that's completely inaccurate. I think what makes a woman come across as strong is centering herself, that she values herself and knows that it's important for her to be taken care of in order for her to take care of everyone else. She centers herself in her situation and values herself, values herself so that she can take care of everyone else. So it's not just completely saying, that she has to be man-like. It's saying that we honor female, again, prototypically female characteristics, I think is really what, it was what's been gotten wrong, and hopefully what we can improve a little bit.
That point you just made about taking care of herself so that she can take care of other people, that reminds me of how they tell you on the plane, that if that mask comes down, put it on your face first instead of on everybody else's face, because otherwise you're going to, pass out. So that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate that. And so some of the reader comments that we had in terms of mistake that authors make about when they're writing alpha heroine is, Mama Tony said the thing, that a lot of times they often come across as a man. We have another comment that she is too overpowering sometimes, Lisa said. And Tam says, I like strong women because that's me. Yes. And then I love Celeste's comment as well. She said, everyone expects a successful woman to be hard and cold. And alpha heroine has all of the sensitivity of a woman who doesn't let that get in the way of getting things done. I really like that definition too. Because you still, they still have all that sensitivity and stuff, but they know what they need to do, and they make that the priority, and that all that other stuff is that has to take the wayside, fall by the wayside to get these things done. That's a great way to put it, Celeste. I love that.
And just a footnote, that's my mom. Yay! Hi, Mom. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Mama. She knows all about alpha heroines because she taught me how to be one.
Yes. Well, like I said, she definitely hit that on the head in terms of, just the way to describe her. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So those are some of the mistakes that, we see. So the question to you and the question to the listeners as well is, what are some of the things, well, no, the question to the listeners is, what are some of the things that you find in a romance where an alpha heroine is written well? What are some of the things you appreciate about an alpha heroine that is written well? And the question to you, Angelina, is what are your 3 tips for writing a strong heroine?
Reese, it's so hilarious, or not hilarious, but it's just like so perfect because you actually gave my first tip, which is an alpha heroine, a strong heroine. She knows what she wants in her life. And you just said that. She has her priorities, she knows what she wants, and everything else, it's not as important or falls to the wayside. So I not teach, but I've given a workshop a couple of times called How to Write Alpha Heroines. I did it for Chicago Spring Fling. Hi, Mom. I did it for Chicago Spring Fling, and I'm actually going to be doing it for the upcoming RWA conference as well, the digital conference at the end of August. But anyway, I have 10 rules for writing alpha heroines, and my first rule is she knows what she wants in her life. So, our heroines have all kinds of issues and things like that. But one of the issues our strong heroine or alpha heroine does not have, she knows what her goal is. She knows what her goal is, and she goes for it. She can have all other kind of problems outside of that, and she needs to have them because we need conflict in our book, and we need to have problem solving in our book. But principally, she knows what she wants and she knows what she's going for. And again, that's about kind of respecting women, that they know what they want and they know what they're going for, and not, and yes, we get confused and all of these different things, but if we're writing specifically an alpha heroine, we really have her being very clear in her goal, and all of the conflict can come up beside of that, but also you really don't have our alpha hero getting involved in that principle or getting in the way of that principal goal too much. Again, there's a lot of conflict in a lot of different places, but that is one of the main things. She knows what she wants, and everything else kind of falls to the side. And again, she doesn't care about what people think about her, because again, that gets in the way of her goals. A lot of things can fall aside for an alpha heroine when she knows what she wants. That's right, they take no BS. I mean, yeah, exactly. Another way that another tip for writing an alpha heroine, and this is one kind of more technique oriented. We know quickly, generally as writers, what our heroine's strength is, kind of what is her strength that focuses her and motivates her. As we're writing her, we create a vulnerability that matches that strength. This goes back to creating, to not acting like vulnerabilities are weaknesses, or not creating these kind of like automaton alpha heroines that are really, really kind of seem like dudes. It really is creating, the way we make our readers root for our alpha heroine is to make her strong, yeah, but give her a vulnerability as well that the reader can empathize with and relate to. And so if you have a strength for your heroine, create a vulnerability that's going to match that. So for Sofia, Princess Sofia and Hate Crush, her strength is that she is a tremendous champion of her community, her people, and her kingdom. She loves them and admires them and wants to help them. So her vulnerability is that she's afraid that her kingdom and her people are never actually going to need her. I mean, there's this great king, there's this amazing billionaire he's married to. Why do they need her around? So the vulnerability that I mess with in the book over and over again is the sense that maybe she isn't needed. Maybe she's just a big pain in the ass to this kingdom. And so pairing that strength and that vulnerability allows you to create a real human that people can understand and root for, not just this female, like, big and tough. The third way that you can write alpha heroine is draw on the strong women in your own life. If we say the word strong women, like instantly a person pops in our head. And generally that person is not a billionaire or a G.I. Jane or an international spy. She's generally someone we know and love. Let's draw on the real women in our lives and the real characteristics of strong women in our lives to inform our creations, because that's how we get real strong women living and breathing in our books.
Look, I'm taking notes because
Oh,
I'm writing a very strong heroine.
oh my! I will. That is, thank you, and I love that. And I'm happy to like type this stuff out for you, Reese, and just send it to you. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Right, I'm like, let me take my notes. So, Nara says a alpha heroine knows how to get what she wants without bringing others down. She knows how to go about her business with class and grace. I like that.
Nara, I love that.
Yeah, I love that. And then in terms of like vulnerability, especially like I said, and of course I have since I haven't read Hate Rush yet, and I can't wait till I can because I want to read it so bad. But that was one of the things in Lush Money that like I really loved how, yes, Roxanne started off super hard and just like very kind of clinical about the whole process of, I just want you 3 nights a week, whatever. Mm-hmm. But as the story went on and we learned more about her and her background and all of that, then you really did a great job of showing us her vulnerability and giving us somebody who we could root for and through the book. Like I think for me, Mateo, it was easy right away from the beginning to just be like, okay, I love him. So but her, I liked her and I respected her, but I think as the book went on, I started to really like her as well. So you did a wonderful, just a lovely job with that. So
thank you. I wanted to comment.
It makes the person more real because that's how real people are. They have both good and bad, or they have strengths and weaknesses. So I love playing with that. I love those flawed characters. I love flawed characters because
me too.
And to me, that's one of the reasons why people a lot of times tell me that I wrote somebody that I write people that remind them of their relatives or people they know, because I do try to show both sides that people have these good things about them as well as weaknesses or what have you. So
it's writing.
Go ahead.
And it's writing an alpha heroine can sometimes be complicated because the readers sometimes find this challenging. We have this whole thing about the unlikable strong heroine, the unrelatable heroine. And so I think creating these vulnerabilities is how you get them to root for her, that you show, these, again, it's the balance is true of the strengths, but it can be challenging. I really went there with Roxanne because just as a writer, the exercise of writing a billionaire heroine, when we've had these, thousands of billionaire heroes and their agenda is shoved down her throat, I did want to spend 3 chapters of her just being like, I want it because I want it.
Yep.
I'm a billionaire. Like, I wanted her to have that opportunity. And there are readers who noped out so quick and, go with God. God love him. But that was an exercise that I wanted to do for myself. And I wanted to do it for every woman who had to read about these asses, billionaires. We've had them jammed down our throat for so long. And I know a lot of readers love them and that's great. But I find them incredibly problematic. And so I wanted to return the favor just a little bit for a little bit amount of time. But Narda also said something really interesting about supporting, that they support people. One of the rules that I use is that you show your alpha heroine supporting other women, because what we've done and we have done poorly in romance sometimes is not showing our heroines supporting other women. That either there's the evil ex, there's everyone who came before the heroine was disposable, or every woman who came before the heroine was a slut. And we did that. We used to do that a lot in romance. We're getting away from it now, but I think another way you show an alpha heroine is she supports other women. She supports the women around her. So that was a great point, Narda. Thank you very much. My nose is itchy, so I'm sorry. Like, I just saw myself like, whatever. It's a pandemic.
And I'm glad that you brought that part up about, it can be tricky writing this alpha heroine because of this issue about a likable heroine or whatever. And so that gives me a chance to bring up my pet peeve that I bring up from time to time. And that is the fact that, like you said, these men can be complete assholes, and they're, oh, assholes we love that, that we love or whatever. Whereas women can have legitimate reason to be angry or upset or whatever, and they don't get the kind of leeway or grace that a hero does. And that is such a pet peeve of mine, is that, in romance landia period, that we tend to do that, where the dude can be, all kinds of wrong. Yep. And, she does just something, the slightest thing, or she has an attitude day because she had a really horrible day, like we do in real life, then people want to write her off. And so it can be a very fine, tricky line to write a heroine that is, super strong or whatever, and then still doesn't get this. And like you said, there's just gonna be some people you're never gonna please, and that's okay. That's why I like to let people know who I am and what I write. And if that's not true, then I totally get it, but I'm probably not for you. So I think a lot of times I say, if you don't like so-and-so, I'm probably not for you. If you don't like, a lot of family drama in your books, a lot of secondary characters, I'm probably not for you. If you don't like career being I'm probably not for you. So,
I got to start figuring that out. I love that. With only 2 books out, I'm like, please read my book. Yeah, no, you're going to love it. Yeah. You like sweet books? Oh, it's fine. You'll love it. It's not true. Don't read it if you like sweet books.
I mean, that's definitely how I was in the beginning. I think now I'm more like, okay. And it's definitely not that I don't appreciate, that you don't appreciate your readers, and you want everybody to read your book. But in reality, everybody's not going to like it. And, and I want people to read what they like, you know what I'm saying? So I that's why I would like to give people a real sense of who I am and what I'm writing. So, because, there are people who, like, for instance, they want a book to just be about the couple, and they don't want to see a bunch of secondary characters. Then I'm not for you, because I always have a big cast of secondary characters, and that's okay,
I love that. So I love it.
I'd rather be honest and let you know what to expect, and not have you be disappointed,
and give you a 1-star review.
And you can't get away from those no matter what you do, but
yeah.
So what are some of the reasons you feel it's so important for us as romance writers to nail writing these alpha heroines, that we get it right, instead of doing some of the things you said, you mentioned, that are mistakes, like making them seem like a man and all of those things? Yeah. Why is it so important that we get it right, do you think?
It's exactly, it's exactly what you just said, which is, these readers, they, and enormous allowances for a man who has an agenda and who has purpose and who has a force of will and strength, and immediately disliking a woman character that way. It's not because of these readers are bad people, it's because we've all been indoctrinated that way, that all of us have been feeding on for centuries about what a good girl is, what a good woman is, accommodating, and she's quiet, and she's modest, and all of these things that in 2020 100% do not serve us any longer in any function. And now the horrors of our political climate and all of these things, but there's bad things happening, but things are coming to light because of the bad things, and we're understanding. Women are saying the way things have been can't be the way they're going to continue. And so we have this, as romance writers, we have this tiny little, part of the world where we're influencing public thought. And part of that is changing the script that we've all consumed about what makes a good woman, and that and that modesty and, shyness and again, a lot of different kinds of people and all types of things, but underlining those as the ideal feminine characteristics, it just has to go in not has to go. We have to evolve. We have to add. We have to change the script a little bit to encompass more qualities of what a good woman is, so that it reflects what we're doing in real life. We're just done with that. So I just think we do have this little window, and if people, and especially a lot of people, are reading our books during formative years and I think we've done a great job of saying, for the most part, these are healthy relationships. These are men listening to women. These are women advocating for themselves sexually, in their love lives, in their own lives. The genre's always been about empowered women. But let's take it a couple of steps further, a little bit further. So that is my soapbox, and I can go on for days about that.
I know. No, I totally get it. Like I said, I've written blog posts and stuff about it because it bothers me to no end that, like I said, that we give men and male characters a pass like that and can be so hard on female characters, because to me that translates to real life, and so I find that problematic.
Yes.
Narda says, let's face it, sometimes we can be a bitch. It makes life interesting. You do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So who are some of the authors, or what are some books that you would recommend where you feel like the author just really did a good job of portraying that strong female character? We already know my recommendation is Lush Money by Angelina M. Lopez. So I cannot tell you enough, if you haven't read that book, to make sure you read it, and to also, like I said, read Hate Crush, because as fantastic as Lush Money was, I can already out the box tell you that you want to read Hate Crush. I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Reese. So yeah, I wrote books down because I was like, you're going to forget. Helen Wang's Kiss Quotient. I thought that was a really cool, interesting alpha heroine. She's on the spectrum, but she knows what she wants. She goes for it. She doesn't hesitate to hire this guy to teach her what she needs to know. And in the end, he helps her evolve, but she saves him. She's incredibly brilliant. She has lots of money and she uses it to help him. So I thought was a great, and she's a great alpha heroine talking about what we're talking about, which, she doesn't have physical prowess. She is analytical, and she is a little bit withdrawn in her emotion, but that's because she's on the autism spectrum. And so it's again, that was taking her vulnerability and making it into a strength to a certain extent. It's definitely pairing those two. So I thought she did a phenomenal job of creating a non-traditional, really strong heroine who isn't a G.I. Jane, isn't a, she's wealthy, but she's not a billionaire. And again, she's just wildly brilliant. Sabrina Bowen's, I just read Sabrina Bowen's Moonlighter. And I had not read, Serena Bowen's Moonlighter. I'd not read her before. She's astonishing. She's really good. And apparently she just pumps out books, which when people write great books like you do and puts them out fast, it makes me really angry, but I smile through it. So her book Moonlighter came out the same time as mine did. She also has a female billionaire. She's running a tech company. It's a billionaire bodyguard book. And it's really, really well done. It really goes into the depths of this woman who she's pregnant when the book starts. She's just beginning her pregnancy. She's pregnant throughout, but how she runs this tech company and the things she runs up against, and and still feels he's a really open, enlightened bodyguard hockey player. It's super hot. I thought Talia Hibbert's Mating the Huntress, that's a novella, but I thought she did such a great job of creating an alpha heroine, and she works in a cupcake or a bakery. She's a baker who also has skills to kill a werewolf. She doesn't usually write paranormal. I think this is one or two of hers, but it's again, it's not, she doesn't have to be.
What's the title of that one again?
It's Mating the Huntress. Mating the Huntress, Huntress, Talia Hibbert.
Got it.
And it's a novella, but it's really, really well done and sweet. And again, all of these guys are strong and sexy as hell and really meet these alpha heroines. In no way are they intimidated by these women, which again, in my mind, makes a man stronger and sexier and more alpha her power is not his issue. There's lots of other ones. There has to be, but one of them is not her power. The last one, and kind of an old school great one that I thought was a great one, is Lisa Kleypas's Dreaming of You, which people talk about all the time because of Derek Craven. And but the heroine in that is Sarah Fielding, who is a writer. And she's writing books about a prostitute on the London streets. And she goes and essentially rents a room in this gambling den so she can get sense of street life. So, she's not tough girl. She's a bookish writer. She actually wears little glasses, but she knows what she wants. She totally goes for it. She supports all of these prostitutes in this place. She's really empathetic, cares about their story, and is very focused about what she wants out of things. And then Derek Craven comes along. So again, it's these women who have all of these different characteristics and things, but they don't have to be, black belts to be able to show their strength. And their heroes were all just yummy, dreamy.
Love it. Love it. So now I'm going to go to a few of the reader comments. And so the ribbon marker. Alpha heroines are a necessity as beta heroes are necessary to move away from glorifying that toxic masculinity centric alpha heroes. Yes. I would love to see and read more alpha heroines. And that question too for listeners is if there are recommendations that you have of books where you feel like an alpha heroine is done really well. Be sure to drop that in the comments. And then if you're watching the replay, feel free to drop it in the comments there to recommend books where an alpha heroine is done well, because we definitely want to read more of those. Like you said, that's how we combat that toxic masculinity that we've seen so much of. And we have another lovely comment. Love it. Agency and empowerment is very important. Mm-hmm. So love that. Thank you for all of you for contributing and for hanging out with us and sharing your comments. It means so much. It makes the show so much more interesting, to get your feedback and stuff. And then we talked earlier, I talked about my secondary characters. And so Mama Tony said secondary characters lead to more stories. Yay, more stories always.
Yes.
And Narda says secondary characters add flavor to the book. So I appreciate that as well. Oh, and listen to this. I cannot see. You're going to get me in trouble. Narda's going to get me in trouble because I'm already way overdue on this book. Okay.
You've got a lot on your plate. You're okay. You have me on your show.
I'm staring at Hey Crush, and I want to read it so bad, and I'm just like, oh. So she says, Lush Money, Hey Crush was even more amazing. So, oh my goodness. So now I got to figure out a way to sneak that in.
Narda, thank you so much. There really is. This was a sophomore effort, and I was terrified. And my husband was looking through the reviews of Hey Crush, and he was like, do people like Hey Crush more? And I'm like, I don't know. It's been really, because it was a hard book to write, because it was my first under contract. It was my first, ode to a publisher, and people loving it has been everything, because I didn't know. Like, I think it's good. It might be awful. Who knows?
I know. Right? I love. There is one question that I wanted to make sure I've remembered to ask you. And you held up a picture. Hold up that cover of Lush Money that you had.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna. I've got the picture too. Let me see.
Yeah. So okay, that's the original one. That's the one. And actually, I actually listened to it on the audiobook, which was phenomenal. And I love all the use of native language and stuff. I loved it. I just loved everything about it. And the narration was fantastic.
The narrator for Hate Crush is the same woman, and she does such a phenomenal job. In fact, my mom was like, she reinvents the book, and in a good way. Like it's like reading the book and then going to see the movie. She does such an amazing job. So yeah, she does. She's really amazing.
She did an amazing job with both voices, both characters, and just I love, and the way she pronounces all the words, everything is just phenomenal. I love it. Love everything about it. So anyway, I love that cover. So what made them change the covers and get with the black and white?
Oh, that's the question. They, so there's going to be some fun stuff happening for Lush Money, the first book. And I can't say what it is yet, but for the fun stuff to happen for the first book, they needed to change the cover. So they decided to change the cover ideas for the whole series. So they moved away from, this has a new cover in ebook yet already. And it's going to be more like this. So all of the covers are going to be like this. But yes, it's fun stuff coming. And I can't say what it is.
Oh,
but So this,
okay.
So
now you got me like I'm sitting here like thinking of all the things. Okay, all right. I'm excited for you already. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Okay, and Narda says,
I know.
You said you need to keep writing. I'm trying to go through your there's a lot of backlog, and then I got a lot
front log.
Yeah, I got a lot of front log that's supposed to be happening. So, well, thank you so much for reading through the backlog. I appreciate it so much. Yeah. So, tell us. I was going to ask you what's coming next for you. So you already hinted at some stuff. So if you don't already follow her, I'm going to have her tell us in a minute where you can. Make sure you connect with her so you'll know what this exciting news is when it comes up. So tell us what's next for you first.
Yeah, so the first book we meet Principe Matteo. We print Prince Matteo. Second book is Princess Sofia. Well, in the first book, 2/3 of the way through, this never before seen half brother pops up. And he popped up on my typewriter about 5 seconds in my brain before he popped up on my typewriter. I was like, and he has a brother. I had not planned it at all. And then I love
that whole twist with the brother and how that turned out. Oh my goodness, I loved it.
He turned out to be so delicious, and he stays delicious in Hate Crush. So book 3, his name is Roman Shepherd. He is an ex-Army Ranger who now has a security firm that they protect, started celebrities and stuff, but now they protect people going into human rights, people going into dangerous places, and he protects, Doctors Without Borders, and, just really, really helping to protect people doing really difficult work out the world, his security firm. So he's the half brother of both of them. His mom was a stewardess, and the dad had a weekend and a fling. And he gained notoriety right when he came home from Iraq, because he saved a teenage Mexican heiress who had just been kidnapped. Nobody else could find her. He found her. He saved her. It helps establish his security firm. This book comes out 13 years later after that happened, and she meets him again. Now, her name is Zenobia Trujillo. She is a CEO of her family's company, Trujillo Industries. It's an Mexican automotive industry company, and she needs him to come back and protect her again. He's not seen her in 13 years, and the reason he didn't, he was 26 when he rescued her. She was 17, on the cusp of 18, and he felt a little bit too drawn to this girl. In his mind, she's very much a girl, and so as a noble prince and soldier, he stayed very much away from her, but now she needs him to come back. In her mind, she fell in love with him hard and quick, but knows it was a teenage crush. So maybe if she gets to spend a little alone time with him and a little bit of nighttime with him, it will help her get over this long-term and unrealistic love at first sight.
Love it. So when does that come in? Do you know when that's going to be?
So yes, it's called Serving Sin, and it is coming out early spring what year is it? 2021. Early spring 2021. Right? Yeah, so it's Serving Sin, and my hero is Roman Shepherd. Has always been based on the actor Jensen Ackles in Supernatural. So,
which brings us to, I was just about to pull up that message. Ma'am, please whip out that picture with Jensen. I'm a little jealous, but I'm gonna tell you something. I created a character based on him too. My book, His Until Midnight, is
excellent. I'm writing it down.
And so, it's His Until Midnight. It's one of my Texas Cattlemen. It was my first Texas Cattlemen's Club book, and it's a Friends to Lovers book. And he was my basis for it. And so it was so funny. So when I saw that you had used him, and then you had that picture, I was like so freaking jealous.
So this is let me see. I keep doing this. I asked him to pose as my to do my cover pose with me. I went to a supernatural convention there, I guess, and I asked him to do my cover pose with me, and he was so game, which was, it's kind of like, where is the cover? I don't even know. But the problem I realized is if you ask somebody to pose with your cover, you have to pose also. But when he swooped in, the handlers were like, you need to stay this, like, they were like, you need to stay this far from his face. And I was like, oh, of course. Like, he wraps his arms around me, pulls me in, and then looks at me like that. I'm not an actress. And so I just went into full on like shell shock. Like, I'm a 46-year-old woman, and this man puts his arms around me, and I'm 12. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So,
oh my goodness,
it was amazing.
Good on you for having the confidence to even ask him that. Because I'm like,
I had bourbon at 11 in the morning. The only one.
That is funny. Oh my God. I want to go to a Comic-Con so bad. Like before, I never really got it. I didn't really understand it. And in the last few years, I've been wanting to go to one so bad. So
it's a special moment. If we ever get a
chance to do things like that again anytime soon, I would love to go to a Comic-Con.
When you are around stars who are into it and really appreciate their fans, it is a special, they have a glow on them, and it's nice to be near it. It was just as I'm writing this book, my heroine is very she's had this 13-year crush on him. She's just very overwhelmed by him. So it's easy to just look at this picture and draw on that emotion of just we forget what it's like to be overwhelmed by a man in a good way. Like manliness, we've been around a long time. We forget what that is. And it was a really interesting thing drawn for this book. Just that, like, I don't know what to do with all of this. It was
that is phenomenal. That is like a memory. Wow.
Exactly. Wow.
and the book where he was so accommodating and willing to do that. So what a memory. So support that every chance you get.
All the time.
All the time. So you told us what's coming next in this series, and tell us, and just for anybody who's here, in the description below, I have the link to Angelina's website, as well as the link to purchase Hate Crush if you're looking to get Hate Crush. But tell us where you hang out online and stuff, and where people can best connect with you.
Sure, yeah. So you can go on my website, angelinamlopez.com, which is there, and sign up for my newsletter. You get free stuff, you get free reads, and all kinds of different things. I do a blog somewhat regularly. I'd like to start doing it more. So I'm on my own website, but then not off my website. I'm on Twitter at Angelina M Low and Instagram at Angelina M Low. I'm also on Facebook at Angelina M Lopez writer. And that's where you can find me. I'm kind of all over the place all the time.
And if they go to your website link, will you have all your social media stuff on your website?
And on my website link.
And then that just makes it easy. They go to the website link, then they'll be able to connect and find you everywhere.
Yes. There's most of that's the best place. Most of the information about me is on my website. So
So is there anything else you want to tell us before we go? I've enjoyed my conversation with you. So thank you so much for doing this. And thank you to all of our watchers who have, especially if you shared comments and stuff. We appreciate it so much. So is there anything else you want to tell us before we wind down?
No, again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everyone who showed up and made comments. And this was super, super fun. Reese, I keep emailing her and saying, like, you do so much and you work so hard. And she's like, I'm really disorganized and overwhelmed. I'm like, you fake it. You fake it. So like, I would never guess that. And how much you write and how good it is, and how much you support the romance industry, and how prolific you are in getting out the message about other writers and your own work. All of that is amazingly difficult. And I understand you feel you're disorganized and frantic. You make it look beautiful. You make it look seamless. And I'm honored to be part of this. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much. That is so sweet of you to say. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah. And Mama Tony says, I'll be adding these 3 books to my TBL You believe me, Mama told me, I know all the books, the books, the stuff that you read, you are going to love these books. So, and so once you read them, let me know what you thought. So, because I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. So, and let's see what Mama had to say. You two are so good together. Come see us at the ranch if you find yourself in Sonoma County, Reese. Thank you so much. I will take you up on that as soon as we get through all of this.
Reese, and I don't know if you knew this, we own a vineyard. We actually, the reason I was able to write.
I did not know that.
That's how, well, that's for the next
come up in the conversation. Come on.
That's for the next book chat. We own a vineyard in Sonoma County, and it's beautiful, and that's how I know this stuff. And yes, I cannot wait to have you. That's what I was going to do. RWA 2020 in San Francisco. I was going to get a bus and bring a bunch of people up to the vineyard.
Man.
One day you're going to be there. Come with us.
Oh, wow. I cannot believe, like I said, I cannot believe you did not say that earlier. That explains, because it really went into detail, and so I learned so much about the vineyard and stuff, and that's a fascinating part of Lush Money. So I did not know that.
Next book chat.
Bury the lead. Nadine says, thanks for this great chat. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the compliment. We appreciate it. And thank you, Laurel, as well. She said, hard agreed. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. So, yeah, I did not know that. And the other thing is, you were living where, in New York before?
DC, right outside DC. Yeah.
Right outside DC. And now you've moved to Houston. So how is life in Houston during a pandemic? You moved during a pandemic, and so did Kenny Ryan. She moved from, I can't remember where she left, but she's in Atlanta now. And I know
Jenny Nordbach moved in the pandemic. Eva Moore moved during the pandemic. Like a bunch of people. I sold my house in a pandemic. We put it on the market May 1st, or April 1st. It's been insane. We don't go anywhere. We order food. I mean, at least Houston's got amazing food to order in, but it's like, it's the craziest thing. I keep telling my husband, and I have a book due August 15th and a 10,000 word story due August 21st. And all of this was in the midst of all this. I told my husband, we're going to look back at this and be like amazed we made it, and amazed we're still married at the end of it. But we are. Yeah. I still love him.
Yeah, the move is really stressful. It's a really stressful thing in your life, So
yeah.
Wow.
When I told my agent, my editor, I was moving, they were like, wow, you've got a lot going on if there wasn't a pandemic. I was like, oh yeah, but here we are in Houston.
Wow. Well, thank you again for joining us, Angelina. And so for all the readers who are out there, if you haven't read it yet, make sure you get Lush Money and Hate Crush. You're going to love them both. I guarantee you. So please do that and follow Angelina, because she is the sweetest. So I'm glad we got a chance to chat, because I like from the big, even just knowing you, getting a chance to know you a little bit on social media, like being connected and stuff. Like, she seemed so cool. She seemed like such a nice person. And then I read the book and I loved it. And I'm like, we're gonna be besties.
Oh my God, I'd be honored. You said it, and they all heard it, so now it has to happen.
That's right.
They're gonna be like, Angelina won't leave me alone now.
Contact me anytime.
I'm
always looking for something to do when I'm not writing, because
which you're always doing. Any way I can help, anything I can do, any way I can help. If you ever want to write a wine book, you got an expert. I can help you out. So
I appreciate that. You know what?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking. I don't want to go too much into what I got planned, but I'm glad you said that.
Awesome.
I'm going to be calling you and Mama.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you again. And thanks. So appreciate you so much, Angelina.
Thank you so much for having me, Reese.
You are awesome. All right. That was Angelina M. Lopez. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. And if you enjoy reader-centered author discussions, by all means, I encourage you to hit the subscribe below and the notification bell, so you'll know when the next chat is coming up, like next week, when I'll be chatting with author Kathy Douglas, who is the author of the Sweetbriar Sweethearts series, and she and I are going to be discussing diversity in small town romance. And if you enjoy this show, please hit the like button and show Angelina how much you appreciated her talking to us today about Strong Heroines and about her Filthy Rich series. So thank you all for joining us tonight. You all have a good evening. Take care. Happy reading.